Hi. This neighborhood in Buenos Aires is rampant with crime. Every house is a little fortress with security cameras, vicious dogs, high fences and barbed wire. But that doesn't stop Ciro Bermudez from making a quick buck in a parked car that the owner has taken the risk of leaving unalarmed. He thinks he's the hunter, unaware that he's been hunted all along. Ciro Bermudez with an experienced thief, without drawing attention to himself, he notices a new model four-wheel drive car and hits it with his hand with the alarm siren. Silence is great luck and the criminal picks the lock with a quick movement. He pulls the audio system out of the dashboard. In the glove compartment there are only useless documents, but in the upper compartment he finds cool sunglasses. Before leaving with his loot, Ciro decides to piss in the back seat for fun. He hides from a passing pedestrian and tries to open the door, but it won't budge. The same happens with the other 3 doors, all of which are locked. Then Chihiro tries to kick the windows, but they are surprisingly strong, and in an extremely agitated state he tries to start the car, but it doesn't work. Ciro starts to think and finds a wrench in the trunk, but even blows of the iron tool do not cause any damage to the windows. Then he disassembles the door trim and pushes his hand inside to get to the locking mechanism. However, all the thief manages to do is to make a deep cut on his arm. Folding the seats, he discovers that under the mat the situation is worse and the floor is welded with thick metal plates. As a last attempt to escape, he decides to take a pistol from his backpack and shoot through the windshield. Again, disaster, the bullet ricochets into his leg, and the sound of the shot is amplified many times by the confined space and seriously deafens the man. Ciro stops the blood with his t-shirt and realizes he can't get out on his own. As luck would have it, a woman passes by the car and looks right through the window, her face a couple of centimeters away from Ciro's face, who tries to get her attention, but the girl sees only her reflection, paints her lips, and then leaves. Something very strange and dangerous is going on in that car. In desperation, the man grabs his cell phone, but unfortunately, the charge is not enough even for one call. Quenching his thirst with the remains of water, he spends hours on the back seat, which he himself had stained earlier. It is unbearably hot inside, and only the searing pain from his wound distracts him from utter despair, whose Rue notices the cricket that is trapped with him and stops himself from flattening his only company. He manages to get some sleep but is now very thirsty, and the only moisture in the car is the condensation on the window, which the thief has to lick, puts the radio back on and turns on some music to cheer himself up somehow. Afterwards, he proceeds to try to destroy the back door of the car. Suddenly, the music is interrupted and Ichiro hears a call coming in on the front panel screen. He answers and is greeted by Dr. Enrique Ferrari. "I've been mugged 28 times in my life. It's hard to believe, but I've read 28. When Ciro gets inside, the doctor gets an alert and he locks all the doors. The car is fully armored and soundproof, and the suspension is locked in the gas tank, 120 liters of gasoline, so any fire would make the car go up in flames. The man is a widower and was born 60 years ago in the movie. In a town near Buenos Aires. In his childhood, everyone left home without locking the door. Where are we going, pining for what life was like half a century ago?" Enrique asks what the Ciro would do to his son if he caught Togo stealing. The criminal finds no answer. He doesn't care at all where the world is going, wounded and dying of thirst. The man thinks only of his own survival. He demands to be let out, but in response he hears only silence. "I swear I'll get out and kill you, Spencer. I will kill you," and all your 7 air conditioner is turned on, allowing the Ciro at least a little cool and air, but the torture continues. The temperature inside inexorably drops and soon it becomes unbearably cold. The captive has to dress and plug the ventilation with improvised means, but the situation is getting worse, and he is shaking from the frost. After a few hours he hears that the airflow is decreasing and the owner of the car makes him a call again. Enrique wonders again, what will Ciro do if he discovers his son is stealing? If the doctor likes the answer, he will give the culprit water, which he tries to answer that he will give his son a beating and take him to the police. But this answer doesn't fit. Enrique points out that the son always takes the example of his father, so no punishment will work. Last year his daughter's house was invaded by burglars, and he taught her not to risk her life and to quietly part with her belongings. But the villains weren't satisfied. They took the man's 5-year-old grandson hostage and demanded more and more. The doctor's daughter then decides to take her 7 and move to Barcelona. The doctor asks Ciro to guess his specialty, but the exhausted man can only think of water and asks to be let out. But the call is cut off after a while. The police drive by and stop right in front of Ciro. The officer gets out and takes a closer look at the jeep while his prisoner tries his best to show his presence inside, but the result is again poor. The policeman only leaves a fine for excessive tinting of the windows. And away he goes. The hours stretch on and a treacherous rain falls outside. Reminding Ciro of his thirst, Enrique calls again and asks the thief his first name, last name and passport number. In exchange for this information the man will get water. Ciro agrees and gets the answer that he will find it in the windshield washer hose. He rushes back and drinks all the glass washing fluid. Despite its disgusting taste, the days go by and his hunger increases. Plus Ciro is now bothered by a cough. To keep his composure, the man talks to a cricket. The captive does not give up trying to break through the door, but he is too weak and soon feels the fever approaching. Enrique gets on the phone when wounded fever is a serious matter of time Lil for wounds, who reveals that he shot himself and the doctor helps him diagnose the condition of the wound. But after that the sadist turns on the heater in the car and talks about his carefree day of freedom. But Enrique doesn't have long to live. He has cancer, his tumor is growing and metastasizing. The doctors give him a year. The whole thing with the car is a mousetrap, part of his plan to change the world while he is still alive, who's seized with fever, and through sleep he hears the man's stories of all the robberies he has suffered to the doctor. An important call comes in and he interrupts his speech while his hostage loses consciousness. Ciro is relieved and later he leafs through the car manual he finds among the documents. Hunger is so great that the thief decides to eat the page. So as not to die of dehydration, Ciro drinks his own excretion. He does not know whether he can get out of this box on wheels alive and stops trying to get out or endlessly staring out the window in empty hope. Among his personal belongings are dinosaur stickers and colored crayons, and he puts them to work to have some fun. Suddenly a guy runs up to the jeep and tries to open the door from the outside, but the culprit is immediately caught by passers-by and starts beating him up. He is brutally beaten. Despite the fact that he has been lying on the ground for a long time and does not resist, the police arrest the robber, saving him from lynch. Later, Ciro hears the familiar call again, but no longer answers it. He almost eats the cricket that has kept him company for the past few days, but stops at the last moment. There are only poor people in this country. Laws are written by the rich. A man sees the garbage men and reasoned that human society is like animals, here too. Many are forced to pick up after the rest of us to keep the whole system in balance. But he doesn't want to live like that, so he won't obey the unjust laws that keep the rich rich and the poor poor. His grandfather and father were also criminals. In the morning he gets a new call from Enrique, whose roving comatose state says that he will fulfill any demands. The owner of the car mockingly tells him the latest news and informs him that he is in a good mood today, so he will give Ciro a gift behind the brake pedal hidden chocolate bar. The man immediately dives for the food and desperately devours it. The doctor continues to work alongside the call, and the receptionist informs him that his patient's water has broken. Ciro takes the battery out of his phone and places it on the dashboard where the sun shines on it. He observes the habits of the residents of the neighborhood and fantasize about how he could use knowledge of their behavior to pick their pockets, whose Rose is envious of the homeless man who eats out of a dumpster. Homeless asshole yesterday. 2 rotten apples today. Pizza man keeps chiseling the door with tools, so he manages to make me a microscopic hole. Ciro yells into it as hard as he can, but the hole isn't big enough to be heard during a new call. Enrique reports on Irina and Lionel. Ichiro's wife and son fear that they are in danger, but they are not. The doctor met with them and visited the home of the perpetrator. Enrique introduced himself as a lottery employee and said that the father of their family had bought the winning ticket. He handed them the winnings in cash, 150,000 pesos. The man suggested that they buy their house so that they would no longer have to pay rent and spend the rest of the money on their son's education. Enrique claims that Ciro doesn't deserve the family he has. He hopes that his wife will now start a new life. The doctor made inquiries about the perpetrator's rich past. Ciro tried to rob brothers who worked in tire shops and shot one of them. The man doesn't want to remember it. His psyche tries to suppress the brutal truth with tears in his eyes. He justifies that it was self-defense, as they wanted to stab him. But that's not all. Ciro beat up an elderly bus driver who died of his wounds, and when he got into an accident with a stolen car, took the life of the driver's girlfriend. He has nothing to say. I've made mistakes. I did my time. What do you want? Enrique wants nothing. Apart from carrying out the sentence, the criminal is doomed, like the doctor himself, dying of cancer. The call goes dead, and Ciro puts the battery in the phone? His actions have had an effect. The screen lights up with a greeting. Wasting no time, he makes a call home, but stumbles upon an answering machine whose Ciro leaves messages, but the battery only lasts for a couple of awkward words. In another round of desperation, the man lets the cricket out through a hole made in the door. He says goodbye and wishes good luck to his little friend. Ciro gets behind the wheel and mindlessly pokes the ignition button again and again. He can't believe his eyes, but the car yields and the dashboard lights up. True. The shifter is stuck in reverse. Ciro buckles up and hits the gas, crashing into a pole, the damaged rear window becoming a life-saving door to the outside. With determination, he waddles through the night streets to the nearest store. He drinks a bottle of water, straight from the refrigerator shelf, and sits down at a table with 2 hamburgers. At this business, he is caught by a security guard who orders him to pay and leave, which immediately pulls out a gun and shoots the man. Several bullets, luckily or unfortunately, but it was only a dream. Ciro's psyche tries to somehow alleviate the hopeless situation, feeling that his strength is about to leave him forever. The man reaches for the gun. He is interrupted by another call. Please. Let me see the prices. The doctor responds with a firm refusal. Ciro threatens to take his own life. He pulls the trigger, but the gun jams for the umpteenth time. During these days, his plan fails, from whose Ruiz a mixture of hysterical laughter and sobbing erupts. Enrique is ordered by the Ciro to look in front of him, and the car's headlights turn on. The doctor is standing in front of him. He unlocks the door and wants to get into the car, but stops because of the horrible stench inside. After applying Enrique's odor spray, he takes the gun and reloads it. He puts a lit cigarette in Ciro's mouth. His last wish himself, he eats a chocolate-covered peanut, once again taunting his captive. The doctor examines the man's wounded leg. He squeezes the pus and bullet out of there without anesthesia, and the patient screams in pain. When Enrique answers the phone, again giving instructions to another laboring, Ciro takes a gun and shoots the doctor. The prisoner opens the door and falls out of the car. Finally, being on the street, he cannot move normally and shoots in the air to attract attention. When he is overtaken by the survivor Enrique, the bullet only grazed his cheek, and he drags the devil back to the prison. Luckily, a policewoman passes by and notices the doctor as a hostage. We'll deal with him ourselves over coffee, it's none of your business. Enrique assures that he was the one who was attacked and tried to steal the car, but the exhortation doesn't work. The police take the man into custody, and 2 o'clock later, the doctor continues to push pathos speeches about justice to journalists and onlookers. What should I do? Kill him or hand him over to the police, where he will be released tomorrow? Some shout that Ciro deserves to die on the spot, while others demand the hostage be released and want to feed both men cakes and tea. The police call in retired negotiator Amadio. The older man refuses to give up his bulletproof vest and enters into a dialogue with Enrique. The doctor has nothing to lose and goes into a frenzy, shouting out more examples of the law not working. Tonav Amadio replies that the man is trying to take out the anger he has accumulated over his life on his partner, who has clearly committed far less mobbing. However, according to Enrique, the police are failing to keep the streets safe and residents are constantly having to do things on their own. Amadio says he faces these problems too, but he realizes that his anger will only hurt, not heal, the community. Enrique disagrees, though. He is convinced that it is better to do at least something. The doctor allows the girl who caught him to bring him Ichiro water. He relents and allows the prisoner to get drunk. Amadio gets closer to him. The elderly widower has nothing to lose and has seen a lot. When it's all over, he wants to invite Enrique to his house for a beer. There they will discuss the future of mankind in a more relaxed atmosphere, but Enrique does not let Ciro go, and Mondeo assures him that the burden of killing a man the same age as his son will be a heavy burden on the conscience of the doctor. Enrique corrects that he has a daughter, and she is not like the criminal Ciro, but she will be the daughter of the man who kept the guy at gunpoint for the whole 5 o'clock. And he certainly wouldn't want to hurt his daughter like that, though the crowd encourages the conflict to escalate. Enrique releases the Ciro, who is immediately arrested with a smile on his face. The doctor gets into his armored car and places a timer phone on the roof. Ciro is also seated in the patrol cars. The police get closer to the doctor's car, but Amadio realizes what's up and commands everyone to retreat. There is a deafening explosion that takes the owner away along with his cruel invention. Ciro is locked in the car again, but at least it is not engulfed in flames, and there is no loaded gun at his temple. He still managed to survive. The title of the movie, as always, look in the description to the rabbit. In the meantime, answer in the comments, was the doctor able to change the world for the better? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and put a like, so that cool stories come out as often as possible.